Alright, boys and girls, today we will be comparing Mourneskull versus Crimson Behelit. This is gonna be a requested video. Last time I ended up doing a big comparison between Farman Fang, Berserker Eye, Spectre Glass, and of course the Crimson Behelit. And some of you guys were asking me why I did not include the Mourneskull. And the reasoning for that was because if you are new to the game, there isn't any way for you to get the Mourneskull right now. Even in my market right now, I don't think there are any available at the moment. It is out of stock, so I decided not to include Mourneskull in my testing. But since it is a requested video, we will be diving into this comparison, Crimson Behelit versus Mourneskull, and there is going to be some changes today. I have set my base damage for this test at 38,000 today, and we will go and deep dive into this analysis, starting with the first chart here. Like the last time, you can see the duration of this test versus training dummy, 60 seconds. And then this gray mid line is going to be our base damage today, which is going to be 38,000. Now, for the Mourneskull, I decided to go with 36% damage, which is going to be the maximum that you can get out of Mourneskull. If you have 3 players around you or 3 enemies around you, you will drain their soul and you will have 36% damage. And that is what I decided to go with. And we are using every piece of beneficial duration, witches, and everything else to increase the beneficial duration or the duration of the gem as much as we can. So Mourneskull, the duration here is gonna be 11 seconds for the Mourneskull, and for the Crimson Behelit it is gonna be 8 seconds. Now you can try and get up to 12 seconds on the Mourneskull and about 8.5 seconds for the Crimson Behelit, but for the sake of this test, I decided to go with 8 seconds for Crimson Behelit and 11 seconds for the Mourneskull. But anyhow, if we move forward, the red line is going to be the Mourneskull. Our base damage is 38,000, and when Mourneskull trigger, our base damage goes around 51,000. And the blue line here is going to be Crimson Behelit. When Crimson Behelit activate, our base damage from 38,000 goes close to being 50,000. And this is how each gem behave. 11 seconds on the Mourneskull, goes down, and there is a cooldown here, and then it goes back up. You can see there is a lot more cooldown for the Crimson Behelit, but this is how these gems behave in a 1 minute test versus the training dummy. In 1 minute test, both gems got triggered 3 times. The duration was 33 seconds for Mourneskull and about 24 seconds for the Crimson Behelit. But now let's move on to a bit more in-depth analysis, and I will be changing the slide. There we go. Mourneskull versus Crimson Behelit, 1 minute damage test. Base hit is going to be 38,000, and we will be achieving 8 hits per second. In 1 minute, we will be able to hit the training dummy 480 times. On the left, there is a Mourneskull. On the right, there is Crimson Behelit. The damage bonus is 36% from Mourneskull and 30% from Crimson Behelit. The buff duration or the uptime for the Mourneskull is 11 seconds after adding Vitus Urges and beneficial duration from the Reforge, primary gear, runes, and secondary gear. It is 11 seconds and 8 seconds for the Crimson Behelit. The downtime for the gem is 9 seconds and 12 seconds for the Crimson Behelit. In 1 minute test, it had 55% uptime, or you can say 33-second buff time for the Mourneskull. And as for the Crimson Behelit, the uptime for the Crimson Behelit in 1 minute was 40%, or you can say 24-second buff time in 1 minute test. And we were able to achieve 264 hits while the gem was active, while the Mourneskull was active during 1 minute test, and we were able to achieve 162 hits while the Crimson Behelit was active in this 1 minute test. Our unbuffed hits were 216 for the Mourneskull when the gem was on the cooldown, and 288 hits while the Crimson Behelit was on the cooldown in this 1-minute test. And again, our base hit is 38,000 for both gems when the gems are not working. And once the gems get activated, Mourneskull was giving me 51,680 damage, while the Crimson Behelit was giving me 49,400 damage. Next, it is the total buff damage that we were able to achieve while the Mourneskull was active, almost 13.6 million damage, and for the Crimson Behelit it was 9.4 million damage. And the base damage that we were getting while the gem was not active, it was 8.2 million for the Mourneskull and about 11 million for the Crimson Behelit. But in total, we were able to achieve almost 22 million damage with the Mourneskull, and with the Crimson Behelit, it was 20.4 million damage, so about 1.6 million damage difference, 1.5 million damage difference. But if we go take a look at damage per second, 364k damage per second for the Mourneskull and 340k damage per second for the Crimson Behelit. And the winner is going to be the Mourneskull when it comes to damage. And we are not including the utility like the Fear. Fear is still going to be super strong for the Crimson Behelit. And this was requested, so there we go. It took me quite a lot of time to put this together. Leave this video a like, that's going to be a huge help for me. And bot gems are pretty good, and maybe in future they might be fixing it so that Ritters will be extending the duration of the Crimson Behelit as well. And if that happens, then Crimson Behelit is going to be a stronger gem in my opinion compared to Mourneskull. But final thoughts, if you only care about the damage, then of course the Mourneskull is gonna win. But I would highly recommend you guys combining these gems together, like using Mourneskull, Crimson Behelit, Spectre Glass, Fervent Fang, Berserker Eye, some of these damage gems together and maximize your damage. That is gonna be the best way to build your character, especially as a low spender or free-to-play player. A lot better than chasing down resonance, in my opinion. At least if I was a free-to-play player, I would be chasing these gems and maximize my damage through some of these strong buff instead of chasing down resonance and keeping like rank 1, rank 2 5-star gems, which would not even give me like the ability of Awaken. A lot of players out there right now using some 5-star gems which is at rank let's say 1 or rank 2, and they don't even get the Awakening bonus. So if I was a free-to-play or a low spender, I would be chasing some of these stronger gems instead of the resonance and awakening every single slot. You can try and sell the stuff that you get from the daily farm and awaken your slot. I believe that's gonna give you a lot better result. But both gems are pretty good, and if you do PvP a lot more, then Crimson Behelit might be a better gem because of its fear utility. It works with the first hit of the damage buff, and it also works with when the damage reduction gets triggered. Anyhow, both gems are really good, and you should be using both at the same time, especially as a low spender and free to play, in my opinion. Now I'm signing off. Consider leaving a like, and I see you all in the next one. Later, guys.